Through the sheets of rain, his headlights caught something that made his heart stop. There, huddled against a pile of garbage bags near an abandoned lot, was a woman clutching a small child. Even from a distance, even through the storm, Marcus recognized her immediately. It was Rosa, his housekeeper of 3 years. The woman who had cleaned his mansion, prepared his meals, and never once asked for anything beyond her modest salary. And beside her, shivering in clothes too thin for the weather, was her son Miguel, no more than 7 years old. Marcus slammed on the brakes so hard the car fishtailed on the wet pavement. He threw open the door, not bothering with an umbrella, and ran toward them. "Rosa, what are you doing out here?" The woman looked up, her face a portrait of shame and exhaustion. Her eyes, usually so warm and full of quiet dignity, were hollow. "Mr. Webb," she whispered, pulling Miguel closer. "Please don't look at us like this. Please just go." But Marcus couldn't move, wouldn't move. The rain soaked through his $1,000 suit as he knelt in the mud beside them. "Rosa, talk to me. What happened? Why aren't you at your apartment?" Her lips trembled, and for a moment, Marcus thought she might refuse to answer. Then, as if a dam had broken, the words came tumbling out. "I lost it. The apartment. I couldn't pay the rent anymore. Not after," her voice cracked. "Not after Miguel's medical bills." Marcus felt something twist in his chest. "Medical bills? Rosa, you never said anything. Miguel looks fine. He's healthy, isn't he?" Rosa's laugh was bitter and broken. "He is now. Thanks to me selling everything we had. The furniture, my mother's jewelry, my car. He had pneumonia, Mr. Webb. Severe pneumonia. The hospital bills, they were more than I make in 6 months. My insurance barely covered anything. I had to choose between his medicine and our rent." She looked down at her son, smoothing his wet hair with a trembling hand. "That's not really a choice at all, is it?" Miguel coughed, a deep rattling sound that made Marcus wince. The boy was still recovering, still fragile. And here he was, exposed to the elements, sitting in garbage with no shelter in sight. "How long?" Marcus asked quietly. "How long have you been out here?" 4 days, Rosa admitted, her voice barely audible over the rain. "I've been coming to work because I couldn't lose that, too. I'd wash up in the gas station bathroom before my shift. Make sure I looked presentable. I couldn't let you know, couldn't let you see what a failure I'd become." "A failure?" Marcus's voice rose despite himself. "Rosa, you're the furthest thing from a failure. You saved your son's life. You've been showing up to work while homeless. Do you have any idea how strong that makes you?" But Rosa wasn't listening. She was staring at something behind Marcus, her expression shifting from shame to fear. Marcus turned to see what had caught her attention and felt his blood run cold. There, emerging from the shadows of the dump, were 2 men. Their intentions were written clearly on their faces. This wasn't going to be a friendly encounter. Well, one of them drawled, his smile showing several missing teeth. "Looks like the lady found herself a rich friend. That's a nice watch you got there, buddy." Marcus stood slowly, positioning himself between the men and Rosa and Miguel. His mind raced. He'd taken self-defense classes at his country club, but this wasn't a controlled environment with padded mats. This was real. And there was a child behind him who couldn't afford for him to lose. "Listen," Marcus said, keeping his voice steady. "I don't want any trouble." "I'm just helping a friend." "Then help us too," the second man said, pulling something from his jacket. In the dim light, Marcus couldn't tell if it was a knife or a gun, and he didn't want to find out. "Wallet, watch, phone, now!" Behind him, Marcus heard Rosa gasp. He heard Miguel whimper. And in that moment, something crystallized in his mind. He'd spent the last 15 years of his life building a tech empire, accumulating wealth, buying things he didn't need to impress people he didn't like. He'd forgotten what really mattered. But here in this rain-soaked dump, with 2 criminals demanding his possessions and a desperate family depending on his next move, he remembered. Slowly, Marcus reached for his wallet. "Okay," he said. "Okay, you can have it. Just let them go. The woman and the child, they have nothing to do with this." "Marcus, no," Rosa protested, but he cut her off with a sharp gesture. He held out his wallet, his Rolex, his phone, nearly $10,000 worth of items. The men snatched them greedily, their attention focused on their haul. It was the distraction Marcus needed. "Run!" he shouted to Rosa. And then he did something he'd never done in his privileged life. He threw himself at the armed men, giving Rosa and Miguel precious seconds to escape. What happened next was a blur of pain and confusion. Marcus felt something hard connect with his ribs, heard Rosa screaming his name, saw lights, police lights. Thank God, flooding the area. Apparently, someone had seen the confrontation and called 911. When Marcus came to fully, he was in an ambulance, Rosa holding his hand and crying. "You idiot," she was saying through her tears. "You beautiful, stupid idiot. You could have been killed." "But I wasn't," Marcus managed to say, wincing at the pain in his side. "And neither were you." Neither was Miguel. "That's what matters." The paramedic working on him smiled. "You've got some cracked ribs and a pretty good concussion, but you'll live." The police got those guys, by the way. They'll be going away for a long time. In the hospital later that night, after the doctors had examined him and confirmed he'd be fine, Marcus had Rosa and Miguel brought to his room. Miguel fell asleep almost immediately on the small couch, exhausted from the ordeal. Rosa sat beside Marcus's bed, her hands folded in her lap. "I need to tell you something," Marcus said quietly. "And I need you to let me finish before you argue." Rosa nodded, her eyes wary. "For 3 years you've worked in my house. You've seen how I live, the excess, the waste, the emptiness of it all. I have 7 bedrooms and I sleep in 1. I have a kitchen that could serve a restaurant and I eat takeout most nights. I have more money than I could spend in 3 lifetimes, and until tonight, I couldn't tell you the last time I did something that actually mattered." He paused, gathering his thoughts. "You were willing to sleep in a dump rather than ask for help. You sold everything you had to save your son. You kept working, kept your dignity, even when the world had knocked you down. And I almost drove right past you. I almost didn't stop." Tears were streaming down Rosa's face now, but she remained silent, letting him continue. "My mother was a maid," Marcus said, the word surprising even himself. It was something he rarely shared. A part of his past he'd buried beneath his success. She cleaned houses for rich families who never learned her name. She worked herself into an early grave so I could go to college, start my first company. And somewhere along the way, I forgot that. I forgot where I came from. I forgot what really matters." He reached out and took Rosa's hand. "I can't give you back the last 4 days. I can't undo what you've been through, but I can make sure it never happens again. Not just for you, for everyone working for me, everyone struggling the way my mother struggled." Over the following weeks, as Marcus recovered from his injuries, he kept his promise. He created a comprehensive healthcare plan for all his employees, covering not just them but their families. He established an emergency fund for anyone facing unexpected hardships. He increased wages across his company, not because it looked good for PR, but because it was right. But his relationship with Rosa changed too. She became more than an employee. She became family. Marcus converted one of his guest houses into a home for Rosa and Miguel, refusing to accept any rent. He paid for Miguel's continued medical care and enrolled him in a private school where his quick mind could flourish. Some of Marcus's wealthy friends called him soft, said he was being taken advantage of. They didn't understand why he'd risk his life for just a maid, but Marcus understood something they never would. There was no such thing as just anybody. Every person had a story, a struggle, a worth that transcended their job title or bank balance. 1 year after that rainy night in the dump, Marcus attended Miguel's 8th birthday party in the garden of the guest house. He watched the boy laugh and play with his new friends from school, watched Rosa smile in a way he'd never seen before, free from worry, from fear, from the constant weight of impossible choices. "Thank you," Rosa said, standing beside him as they watched Miguel open presents. "For seeing us, for stopping, for caring when you didn't have to." Marcus shook his head. "You've got it backward, Rosa. Thank you for reminding me what it means to be human. Thank you for showing me that real wealth isn't what you have. It's what you give, who you help, and the difference you make when nobody's watching." As the sun set over the garden party, Marcus realized something profound. On that rainy night, he thought he was saving Rosa and Miguel, but the truth was far more beautiful and complex. They had saved him from a life of hollow success, from forgetting his roots, from becoming the kind of person who could drive past someone in need without stopping. The millionaire had found his maid and her son abandoned in a dump. And what he learned didn't just break his heart. It rebuilt it into something better. something capable of seeing the humanity in every person he met, and that he knew was worth more than all the money in the world.